Madam Speaker, I rise in strong support of H.R. 3375, the Stopping Bad Robocalls Act, bipartisan legislation that I introduced with Ranking Member Walden, Communications and Technology Subcommittee Chairman Doyle, and Subcommittee Ranking Member Latta. This legislation advanced out of our Energy and Commerce Committee last week by a unanimous vote of 48-0. The rising tide of unlawful, unwanted robocalls started as a nuisance, but now threatens the way consumers view and use their telephones. These calls are undermining our entire phone system, and that's something we all need to take very, very seriously. Last year, there were an estimated 47 billion robocalls made to Americans. It's no wonder that the American people have lost confidence in answering their phones. And the Stopping Bad Robocalls Act will help restore that confidence, and that's very important in my opinion. Madam Speaker, Americans use their phones at some of the most important times of their lives. They use their phones to get help from first responders by calling 911, to hear important medical test results from their doctor, to connect with or reassure a family member or friend, to learn the school is closed tomorrow, or just to conduct daily business. Illegal, unwanted robocalls threaten the foundational ways that we communicate with one another, and that, in my opinion, is dangerous. Each time a consumer chooses not to pick up the phone out of fear that a scam robocall is on the other end of the line, it chips away at our community and public safety. Too frequently, consumers feel their best option is to not answer their ringing phone, which may lead them to miss an important call. And it's truly unfortunate that consumers feel they must take that risk in order to proactively defend themselves against a scam call. Some studies estimate that nearly half of all calls this year will be scam calls. And these calls are not only harmful to the American people, but they're also harmful to business. The Chief Information Security Officer of the Moffitt Cancer Center recently testified before our committee that scammers were calling his hospital, disguised as Department of Justice officials, demanding to speak with a physician about his medical license. And robocalls are dangerous to public health and to people's privacy, using this as an example. We've heard similar stories of scammers disguised as the IRS, looking to collect the debt, scammers disguised as local governments or police departments, and scammers disguised as loved ones in trouble looking for help. We're even seeing new scams, such as the One Ring scam, where fraudsters try to trick consumers into calling back international numbers in the hopes that the consumer will rack up large charges. And all of these scams are different, and there's no silver bullet to fix them all. And for that reason, this legislation takes a comprehensive approach to cut off robocalls at many different points. For example, the bill would implement a nationwide caller authentication system, free for consumers, so they can again trust that the number they see on their caller ID is actually the person calling them. In that same vein, consumers need more help controlling the calls they have asked not to receive. Consumers need to be in charge of their own phone numbers, and scammers or telemarketers must have a consumer's consent before making calls. Consumers should be able to block illegal and unwanted calls, but with blocking, there needs to be transparency and effective redress so that we ensure the calls people want are actually getting through. And what's more, Madam Speaker, we need to ensure that law enforcement and the Federal Communications Commission have the tools, information, and incentives to go after robocallers that break the law. So this bill takes all these steps and more. It also includes the text of many important proposals that would help address the onslaught of robocall consumers that they face. And I just want to mention some of the other bills that were introduced that we've tried to incorporate in this bill. One is the Ending One Ring Scams Act, the Tracing Back and Catching Unlawful Robocallers Act, the Locking Up Robocallers Act, the Spam Calls Task Force Act, and the Protecting Patients and Doctors from Unlawful Robocalls Act. And I want to I'll thank the sponsors of those more specifically later during this debate. But ours is a strong and comprehensive bill that puts consumers first. And I want to thank all of my colleagues that have shaped this bill with me, specifically Mr. Walden, Mr. Doyle, Mr. Latta, of course. But I also want to thank all the consumer advocacy organizations and the carriers that worked hard to reach a consensus piece of legislation that will take tough and meaningful steps to protect consumers from these annoying and illegal robocalls. The legislation, Madam Speaker, now has 237 sponsors, and I'm hopeful that it will garner strong bipartisan support today when we vote. I urge all of my colleagues to put consumers first and join us in passing the Stopping Bad Robocalls Act. And with that, I would reserve the balance of my time.